All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into the actual mechanics of compelling communication. We are going to unpack Dr. Stephen D. Mathewson's masterclass on how to properly shape and outline sermons for Old Testament narratives. If you've ever struggled with trying to keep an audience on the edge of their seats, all while staying totally true to the biblical text, well, you are definitely in the right place. Let's get into it.
So, for years, and I mean years, aspiring speakers have been fed this absolute classic piece of communication advice. Tell them what you plan to tell them, and then tell them what you just told them. We've all heard it, right? It sounds super logical, it feels safe, it feels really, really structured.
But here's the catch. According to Dr. Mathewson, taking this rigid, highly repetitive formula and slapping it onto a biblical narrative is just a guaranteed way to ruin a perfectly good story. Actually, he literally calls it lousy advice. And when you stop and think about it, giving away the ending before you've even introduced the characters, that completely defeats the entire purpose of storytelling.
Section 1, Deduction versus Induction. Okay, to understand exactly why giving the answer away up front is such a flop, we need to look at how we actually present ideas to our listeners. See, a lot of pastors default to what we'll call the principle trap without even realizing it. They look at a rich, highly complex narrative and instantly try to wring out a neat little list of principles. You know the type, extracting 3 keys to impossible living from Moses, or maybe techniques for putting past pain behind from Joseph. The massive problem here is that you're using the narrative just as a basic illustration. It basically reads external ideas back into the ancient text and completely bulldozes the original author's actual storytelling strategy.
And this brings us to the ultimate showdown in communication, deduction versus induction. Deduction gives the answer right up front, breaks it down, and explains it. And sure, it's very clear, but it runs a massive risk of being just plain boring. I mean, if you give away your big idea in the first 2 minutes, why should anyone keep listening? Induction, on the flip side, starts with specific, intriguing pieces. The answer is completely unknown at the beginning, and you only hit the grand conclusion at the very end. When you pull this off, it creates real suspense and a totally genuine sense of discovery for your audience. So, if we want to preach a story effectively, we really have to ask ourselves, how do stories actually function out in the wild? Well, stories naturally work inductively. Think about it. It is incredibly rare to get the final resolution on page 1 of any good novel. Great stories inherently rely on what Dr. Mathewson calls strategic delay. This is the deliberate, highly calculated withholding of the big idea or the key details until the end of the narrative. You don't front-load the big idea. No, you carefully save it for that vital aha moment. Strategic delay keeps the tension incredibly high and lets you ride the natural built-in contour of the storyline. What's really fascinating is how we see this exact technique modeled directly in the biblical text itself. Take the story of Micah and the Danites in Judges 17 and 18. The author tells us early on that Micah has a quote-unquote house of God, but the narrator intentionally waits until the absolute last line of a 2-chapter story to drop a massive clarifying detail, that all this time, the true house of God was actually in Shiloh. Wise communicators are going to mirror that delay. They aren't going to spoil the ending. They hold their comments until the narrative absolutely demands it. You see this again with Uriah in 2 Samuel 11. Early on, he delivers these incredibly noble, loyal words about refusing to go home to comfort while the army is sleeping in tents. As the explainer, you might briefly mention these words when they happen, but you strategically delay putting the heavy emphasis on them until the very end. Why? So you can perfectly contrast Uriah's stellar character right up against King David's massive moral failure. The delay is literally what creates the impact. Moving on to Section 2, Framing, Not Building Pianos. So, if we aren't handing out the answer up front in a cute little package, how on earth do we build the underlying structure of the presentation? Well, lots of speakers fall into the perfect outline trap. Dr. Mathewson remembers this one seminar where a student proudly shared his perfectly alliterated, completely parallel outline for David and Goliath. It went like this. Point 1, Goliath challenges God's people. Point 2, Saul cowers with God's people. Point 3, David conquers for God's people. And the legendary preaching professor Haddon Robinson just listened to it, paused and growled that nobody actually talks like that anymore, except in a pulpit. The real breakthrough in outlining happens when you just change your mental analogy. As a contractor friend once told Dr. Mathewson, you are framing a house. You are not building a piano. When you frame a wall with 2x4s, yes, it needs to be sturdy.
but it absolutely does not need the millimeter precision of a finely crafted Steinway piano.
And honestly, here is probably the most liberating piece of advice you'll ever hear about structure. Because your outline is ultimately going to be covered up with the sheetrock of your storytelling, your very first rule is to stop trying to create cute, alliterated outlines that your audience will remember. You heard that right. Stop trying to make your outline memorable.
Think of your outline literally like your skeleton. It is absolutely essential to keep your message standing up and moving forward, for sure. But it should remain completely invisible to the people watching you. Your audience needs to be totally engaged with the flesh and blood of the story, not silently counting your rhetorical ribs. Section 3, Rules for Simple Outlining. So once we finally drop the pressure of making our outlines super catchy, we can use a few simple, really functional rules to map the narrative. Rule number 1, view your main points as endings, not beginnings. See, outlines naturally push you to be deductive. You want to announce point 1, then list out subpoints A, B, and C. But remember, stories demand induction. Your point should represent a movement or a scene. So the main idea of that point isn't a bold announcement at the start, but rather the destination that the specific scene is actively driving toward. It emerges at the end. Rule number 2, absolutely always write your outline points in complete sentences. If you just jot down a vague topic like the problem of idolatry, it literally doesn't tell you what you were actually saying about that topic. Dr. Mathewson notes brilliantly that using partial statements allows your actual thoughts to slip right through your mind like a wet football. But a full sentence, something like Micah and the Danites turned from God to idols, that forces you to think crystal clearly about your destination. Rule number 3, limit your main points. To keep the whole structure from getting overwhelmingly complex and losing everyone in the weeds, Dr. Mathewson highly recommends limiting yourself to just 2 to 4 main points. Any more than that, and your listeners simply won't be able to follow the thread of the story. Honestly, some of the most powerful, gripping Old Testament narrative sermons only need 2 points total. Point 1 is the narrative crisis, the core problem, and point 2 is the narrative resolution, the eventual outcome. Just keep it incredibly, wonderfully simple. Section 4, the big idea comes last. All right, so where exactly do we put our central thesis, the big idea? Well, the absolutely crucial thing to remember is that your big idea must come last. Let's look at the inductive journey of Judges 17 and 18 again as an example. Movement 1 is the crisis. Micah and the Danites turn to idols. Movement 2 is the resolution. As a result, they do not experience God's presence. And finally, after walking the audience all the way through that tragic narrative arc, the big idea emerges completely naturally at the very end. When we turn to idols, we miss out on the presence of God. And this just perfectly illustrates how the big idea is supposed to function. Whether you make it a separate final point or the very last subpoint of your resolution, it has to emerge organically. This inductive structure makes sure you ride the tension created by the narrative's complication all the way to its tragic or triumphant conclusion. You aren't shortcutting the journey for anyone. Because at the end of the day, tension is your absolute best friend as a storyteller, period. Dr. Mathewson reminds us of a hard truth. When the tension is over, the explainer is over, whether you are actually done talking or not. So as you go to structure your next narrative, you've got to ask yourself honestly, by giving away the ending right up front, are you killing the tension before your story even has a chance to begin? Look, embrace the delay, hide the skeleton, and just let the story do the heavy lifting for you.